while I wanted to sit for the CA exams. But for some reason at the last moment, I abandoned that idea and I said, well, let me try my hand at the law and see how that goes. So I attended the government law college in Bombay for a few years. Was keen on applying for a master's. So I went to Oxford for a year to begin with. And that 1 year, doing the BCL that year was I think Justice Banerjee used the word culture shock. That was a culture shock for me. Because what I did in my Indian university, and this is true for many universities, so I'm not singling out mine, was to read, for instance, from a guidebook, a 200-page book that would summarize the 10 leading books in a particular field. When I went to Oxford, I realized that everyone around me had read each of those 300-page books rather than just the guidebook. So I found that I had to do a lot of work and expend a huge amount of effort to even get to the level that they were before I could think about competing with them. And it took a while, it took a few months. But at the end of the year, I found that I was at par with them, with a bit of extra effort and a few less parties. And I realized that I wanted to study further, so I decided to do a PhD, did some work in comparative constitutional law, wrote a book, and so on. When I entered practice, let me tell you about an experience that I had, because I think that was rather transformative as well. Which is that I was doing a pro bono case in the UK. It was in an employment tribunal, and it wasn't in London. London, as you know, is a bustling city, extremely multicultural. You have people from all races, ethnic backgrounds, cultures. You hear as much Hindi as you do Spanish, as you do Italian, as you do German. But when you leave London and you enter, the countryside, things can be a little bit different. So I get to the door of the employment tribunal. I'm a qualified barrister, and the court clerk says to me, "Okay, so are you a clerk? Are you here to deliver the papers?" And I said, "Well, no, I'm not sure why you made that assumption, but anyway, I'm a barrister. I'm representing the claimant." And he said, "Okay." Then, of course, it took me another 5 or 10 minutes for him to get my spelling right. And at that moment, I did have a bit of a realization. I said, "Well, why am I doing all of this? Is it really worth it? This person at the door of the courtroom can't pronounce my name. He thinks I'm a clerk, possibly because of my race or because of how I look or because of my name or whatever it is. Should I just abandon this plan and think of plan B?" I entered the courtroom, represented the client. It was this employment claim for a security guard for the princely sum of something like 1,000 or 1,500 pounds, which is very, very little. I was doing the case pro bono. And I lost, and I was disheartened. But when I looked back at my client, at the security guard, I saw nothing but gratitude in his eyes. In fact, I was almost taken aback by how grateful he was. And that was a genuinely humbling experience. And that made me realize that this is the reason for which I wanted to become a lawyer to begin with. It makes no difference to me whether the judge or the person sitting outside can't pronounce my name. The fact that a client for whom 1,500 pounds means, frankly, life and death, it changes things completely for them. They were in credit card debt for 2,000 pounds, so it potentially pays off all of their debt. For whom I just tried my best but just lost, was extremely grateful. And that for me was transformative and reaffirmed why I wanted to become a lawyer to begin with.